There we go. Looks all right on my end. Um, Had a coffee this morning. Woke up super early. Kind of just wanted to do something different. Just kind of talk about something that's been weighing on me, or just a few things that have been weighing on me. Again, just like more media stuff. Gonna be talking about a movie specifically, an article, and a video, or more importantly, the video, I guess, because it relates to the movie actually, and the article is from the video, which also does a really good job about capturing the themes of the movie. Thing I wanted to talk about was the movie We Live in Time with Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. And specifically, I also wanted to talk about the video, um, the New York Times love column video with Andrew Garfield in it, where he talks about the movie and then he also reads this beautiful piece, Modern Love essay, I guess is what the video is entitled. I'll be sure to link that in the description whenever I can, and same with the article as well. The video links the article, but I'll link it here just to save y'all the time. But I guess I also wanted to start off too with, you know, just because with the title, We Live in Time, it has me thinking a lot about my time here on Earth, and how for the longest while I didn't really appreciate it as much as I should have. So I'm kind of coming around on that now, and trying to find beauty in things. Um, I mean, got a decent backdrop behind me. What's not to appreciate, I guess. But then I guess beauty in nature, but then beauty in people, beauty in relationships. Um, I'm slowly learning that all of that is just as important. But something I wanted to start off with actually is a small quote from a video of Savannah Brown, where she's talking about relationships. Um, and the piece that really sticks out to me, she says, "I feel like I've wasted time and time with people." It's a very short thing, and I feel like it's sort of easy to bypass it, but um, moment to moment, you kind of take for granted all sorts of aspects of your life, and especially the time that you have here and the time you have with people. So I thought it was just beautiful, simple. But then that relates to the movie as well. We Live in Time. Great movie. I love it a lot. I actually rewatched it this morning. Just again, like woke up super early and I was like, you know what? Let me rewatch it so the ideas are fresh in my mind. Um, but yeah, great movie. Uh, it's one of the few movies actually where it does a really good job of going back and forth between different times in these two people's lives. I feel like sometimes whenever movies do time jumps, or like time jumps back into time, for like a narrative purpose, it sort of becomes a bit like staggered. This movie balances it perfectly, and I feel like it kind of ties into what the movie's trying to say as well, about appreciating the moments you have, moments with loved ones, good, bad, and all of those smaller, more beautiful moments in between. Um, y- you know, I don't want to give away too much about the movie, because I think everybody should watch it. Or if you enjoy movies and I guess enjoy concept of love and life, it's a good movie to watch. But very simply, in the movie, two people fall in love, and it's kind of jumping into these different parts of their lives, different, like sort of starts out in the middle, really, oddly enough, but then it jumps, all the way back to their meeting, getting to know each of them as individuals before their relationship with each other. And most of the movie is like split in between a more like future, where they're dealing with things like this middle path of their like relationship starting off and where it's evolving into. But it's great, and it balances it all very well. uh, well, actually, I guess just minor spoilers, because I do want to talk about a few things specifically that I really enjoyed with the movie. um, Yeah, first of all, just the performances. Love Andrew Garfield. Love Florence Pugh. They're both great, and they're both very convincing in their acting, and this love that they're showing for one another with their characters. Um and both of them are just as interesting as each other. And it's bizarre, because I feel like whenever people are in love, it's kind of a balance bringing these like two different lives together. Obviously, they're at different points, both of them sort of out of a relationship. Um, Andrew Garfield's character, Tobias, more so than Florence Pugh character's Almit, because he's like fresh off a divorce, and she's been single for a while, focusing on her career, and that's a big thing in her life is career. And with Andrew Garfield's character, Tobias, he is looking more into the future. He's looking to start a family, and he's looking to be with someone who kind of shares that mindset. So obviously they clash in that aspect, and there's a really good part in the movie, um, where he's trying to have this conversation with her about starting a family. And you can't really say that either of them is right in the situation, especially with the way Amit kind of handles it. But then it's a lot to drop on a person so suddenly. And I mean, Tobias, he tries to sort of defend himself with it, saying that it's a bit early in the relationship, sure, but I want to spend the rest of my life with you because I'm in love with you. And it's simple, but still, it's a lot to confess something like that. So it kind of makes sense the way Almond reacts. But it stings, no doubt. I feel like it's tough to put yourself out there and to be shut down. And then a later scene where Tobias kind of confronts Almond about the conversation, and you see both sides, and it's nice that they work past it. Um, I guess some other scenes as well that I really enjoyed. I say that it's kind of a movie about like love and life, and finding time for those you love. Um, well, yeah, I guess I just am gonna have to kind of spoil it a little bit for you to get the understanding for what I'm going for. But in the movie, it's very, you know, they get into it rather quickly, so I guess not too much of a spoiler. But if you're interested, you'll still watch it anyways. But Amit has cancer, and that's sort of a thing that they jump in between throughout the movie. Just like doctor visits and whatnot. Uh, but it's something that kind of comes up, and they're just trying to find a way to deal with it, I guess, like in the best way they can. So there's like a ticking time clock sort of element to the movie as well, because you have a character who knows their time is limited, and then the other character who knows they have limited time with this person. um, it's quite strange in that way, but uh, so they're just trying to make the most of it, really. They have a conversation too earlier on about just enjoying the time they have. uh, you know it's like, okay, do we like go through with the treatment, and our time remaining is probable, but it's bad because we have to do the treatments, we have to spend the money, do this doctor visits, or do we just try to enjoy it for what it is? Like we know we'll have like 6 really good months. And it's interesting whenever your like life is faced with that certainty of death. You kind of shift things a bit more into a perspective. And I feel like that's kind of the journey that Almit goes on for a long time too. I said earlier she's a bit more work focused, and it's very apparent because, like, she loves her job. She's a cook, and she kind of puts it at the forefront, and she feels like that's her legacy in a sense, and it's what she wants to leave behind, especially for their daughter that they end up having. She wants the daughter to know that her mother did something with her life, and she was something, not just uh, somebody who passed away earlier on, which is very sad, obviously. Um, but again, just sort of beautiful, and I feel like it's a really nice thing as well, especially towards the end. Amit finally realizes that she's like in this cooking competition through her job, and she sort of realizes like, well, I did what I wanted to do, but now it's just time to spend the rest of it with my family. She leaves the competition, goes with her family. And then the beautiful shot at the end. I love it so much, but it's like a small point in the movie where they kind of mention that she was a like figure skater alongside her father. And then that's what they do at the end as a family. They go out and they skate. It's a beautiful shot where she sort of skates away from her family, and she's like in a more shadowed area, representing her soon-to-be death. And the family just sits there waving at her. The camera slowly pans further and further away, creating this distance between them. And then, cuts to her waving away, and just this vast landscape, eternity. It's great. The movie is great, obviously, but it makes you think about your time here, and spending it with the people you love. And that's something that's important. I'm finding out more and more every day. Again, good, bad, everything small in between. I think about it a lot, especially with like friends or family. You never get the same opportunity twice, if that makes sense. You can laugh about one thing one day, and then the next day it's just a thing. But I feel like if you can look back and just appreciate the laughs, or appreciate even the silence that you can share with a friend or a family member or a loved one, as long as it sits with you and you can appreciate that it existed, it matters. But then I guess moving on to the video with Andrew Garfield, it talks briefly about the movie, of course, but then it's more importantly about this modern love essay that he ends up reading in the video. Again, I'll link it so you can hear him read it, but I actually wanted to read it out loud just because I've liked it, and I've read it over a few times. Might not read it as poignantly as he does, but just sort of wanted to read it and talk about it after the fact. And say, as you can see, I moved over to a different spot. I feel like I'm always scratching and stuff whenever I'm sitting over there, but because that's a more grass area, so there's like mosquitoes. We're still in mosquito season. Yeah, but less mosquitoes over here, so I'm okay. But there's one flying around. All right. Anyways, let me get into the essay. It's called "Learning to Measure Time in Love and Loss" by Chris Huntington, and I'll link this in the description. Okay. For about 10 years, I worked full-time in prisons as a teacher, logging more than 40 hours a week behind those fences, including a long winter at one facility that had been a cereal factory and stood near the highway in downtown Indianapolis. It was a rock of a building with finger-thick grills on the windows. During my first week there, an inmate laughed when I asked him to reset the wall clock. A few minutes off, he said, "We need one that goes by months and years. What do we care about 5 minutes?" I mention this only because his words summed up the love story that had defined my life. When my wife left me, I was living in Paris, which was not as romantic as it may sound because I was incredibly lonely. My bones ached, especially at the sound of accordions in train stations. All my plans had come to nothing. I had failed at marriage, failed at work, and had no money to speak of. Sometimes I would see my ex-wife on the street, and she would turn away with an eagerness that could not be ignored. One night, I came upon two boys robbing an old Vietnamese man, and when I tried to intervene and make them stop, they turned on me. I began to wonder if maybe a part of me wanted to die. I moved back to the United States and took a job in the prison. I met the inmate who helped me with the clock. I also met an inmate who had salt and pepper hair, huge biceps, and a pair of ridiculous glasses no one in the free world would ever wear. This inmate's name was Mike. Mike showed me a folder of clippings and photocopied certificates from all the educational programs he had completed in prison. He had earned a GED and a bachelor's degree, as well as certifications in the usual programs like small engine repair and barbering. He had kept letters from his counselors, chaplains, and teachers. In these letters, supervisor after supervisor claimed to love him, but it all struck me as kind of sad and awkward. I couldn't read the whole thing. I had my own problems. I had a tiny apartment and spent my evenings trying to write a book and corresponding with women I had met on the internet. I took all my lost chances personally. When I first met Mike, he said, "These young guys, they just got locked up and they've got 5 years to do and they hate it." I get that. When you're 20, 5 years is a long time, so they act out. I used to be like that, but now I'm 2/3 done, so every day is taking me closer to the door. When I think like that, I can get up in the morning and smile. A month later, my supervisor told me Mike had been locked up for more than 16 years and had at least 8 more to go. Arrested when he was a teenager, he wasn't going to be released until he was in his mid-40s. He had raped the sheriff's daughter in his hometown. It didn't matter how fat his folder of supportive letters got. I used to be angry, Mike told me. I picked fights over nothing. I was mad to be in prison, and I wanted everyone else to be mad too. But then I realized, man, this is my life. Do I want to be that guy? Always mad. I'm not going to get married or have a family. Not today, maybe never. I'm going to be here. I'm a prisoner. There are some things I'm never going to do, and I can spend my life being mad about that, or I can try something else. I asked him what he had decided. I decided to be the best prisoner I could be, he said. This all relates to the clock on the wall because I fell in love again, and this became my new life. She was from New Hampshire and had never been to France. She left me for 2 years to write a memoir about her mother, but then she came back. She wrote me letters, and I felt I knew her entire apartment because I studied the tiny photos she sent me of her sitting at her desk or standing by her curtains. We were married, but not before I went to New Hampshire and met her mother. That afternoon, her mother could barely look at me. She was 48 and very sick, just a few months away from being dead. My wife drove me through her hometown, and I saw a lake where she had spent her summers when she was a teenager. Not quite 5 feet tall and voluptuous in swimsuits long gone, we ate ice cream and talked quietly in the afternoon. She held my hand. She gave me an expensive watch I kept wearing even after the crystal was scratched. Our son is from Ethiopia, where I once saw a dead horse on the side of the road that resembled an abandoned sofa. I asked a friend if we needed to do something about that, and he said the wild dogs would take care of it. We took our son far away from all that 5 years ago, which may seem like a kindness, except it also hurts. I wish our son could know those dirt roads and the way they looked like chocolate milk. In the rain, the way the hillsides were a delicate green. The way our driver would not go into the zoo because he was disgusted by the concrete ugliness of the lion cages. I wish my son's birth parents could see him swimming. He's such a good swimmer. I wish that they could hear him reading books aloud. I wish he could know them. I wish our son could speak Oromo, the language of his birth. Our story, so full of love, is also full of loss. When I was younger, I used to get up early in the morning to write. Now I get up early to make my son breakfast. I rarely stay up late. I like my job, but I have to work after dinner most nights. I can reach my laptop only if I lean over the pile of markers and a tiny Buzz Lightyear on my desk. My wife hasn't worn a bikini for 6 years and probably never will again. She says she's too old, which makes me sad. She was a beautiful woman with gray in her hair. My parents no longer drive at night, and I have fewer and fewer hobbies. This summer, my mother made a box of cookies just for my son, and I was happy to see them talking quietly in the kitchen. I'm constantly aware of lost opportunities. I used to think such lost opportunities were beautiful towns flashing by my train windows, but now I imagine they are lanterns from the past, casting light on what's ahead. My life is constrained in hundreds of ways, and will be for years as my son grows up and my wife and I grow older. I don't know when I will return to Paris, if ever. I don't know when or if I will finish my book. I do know I love eating breakfast with my son. My wife wants us to open only one box of cereal at a time to keep the flakes from going stale, but my son and I get up first, so we eat what we want. We like to change. He gives me a thumbs up whenever I open a new box. In our family, we talk about our days and recount our best part and worst part at dinner time. Last week, I was reading a bedtime story with my son and was distracted by the laptop and work waiting on my desk. But I turned to him and said, "We forgot best part, worst part." What was the best part of your day? He pushed his chin into my shoulder and said, "This is Daddy, this is." I felt like a complete fool. I had to close my eyes for a moment. And then we agreed that his worst part was when he cried about eating chickpeas. When I was a boy, I hated beets. I hope I can protect my son from beets until he's old enough to hold in the tears. They're not worth it. When the battery in my watch died, I still wore it. There was something about the watch that said, "It doesn't matter what time it is, think in months, years. Someone loves you. Where are you going? There are some things you will never do. It doesn't matter. There is no rush. Be the best prisoner you can be." So that's it for the essay. But man, it's that part. Uh, again, I was talking earlier about like feeling like you wasted time and time with people. It's because you get so caught up in your life and the way you sort of do things, and sometimes it is difficult to make time for those you love. Uh, yeah, but the part that gets me is whenever the dad realizes that he missed doing their ritual, the best part, worst part. Um, and in that moment he's with his son, sure, but he's thinking about, okay man, like what's happening in the future, gotta think about work, gotta think about this. So whenever he asks his son, like best part, worst part, and his son says this moment right here, the moment we're spending with each other, it it sort of puts it in perspective for him, and that's why he says he feels like a fool. He feels foolish for missing out on this moment they're sharing, to be so distracted by other aspects of life and to not truly appreciate what's in front of them. So that's the relevance, at least with this story. One of the key parts that sticks out to me, at least. But then also this conversation he has with the prisoner, thinking about your life, uh, not necessarily in these shorter time spans, but like in the grand scheme of things. The months, the years, um, and they go hand in hand. You think of your life as the whole, and you think of it in these smaller, more intimate moments. And then obviously the metaphor with the prison and being a prisoner. They talk about it in the video. Andrew Garfield goes into it a little bit, but the prison is this life we all live, and we're just a prisoner in that life. And how we choose to face it is really what kind of determines our reality. There's another really good part earlier on where the prisoner also talks about who he wants to be in this life, which sort of prisoner he wants to be. Uh, and he says, do I want to be that guy that's always angry, or am I going to do something about it? And I guess that kind of relates to something else, aside from love, more about life, I guess. But shaping your perception into your reality. What sort of person do you want to be? Asking yourselves these sort of harder questions, I guess. But that part stuck out to me as well, just because, especially with this year, um, at the start of it, man, just mad at everything. Uh, state of the world sort of thing, but then also my personal life, just mad at some of the relationships I was having, and just mad with other people. But then you think about it, and a lot of that anger usually comes from yourself. You're mad about something within yourself, and you sort of lash out at other people to cope, which obviously isn't what you want to do. It's a very destructive way of living, honestly. And my coping mechanisms at the time weren't that great either. uh, just abusing vices and whatnot, alcohol mainly. But but then you sit for a while and you ask yourself, well, the same thing the prisoner asks, like, do I want to be that guy? Do I want to be the angry guy? Do I want to be the hateful person? And obviously you don't, because being that person strips you of the time that you'll end up having with other people. These relationships would only grow weaker if you continued to be mad. uh, so inversely, I guess, being happier, or not even happier, just being a bit more aware of your emotions in a moment, and appreciating what you have, um, is a lot more important than just sticking with anger, sticking with hatred. But yeah, beautiful piece. I've been thinking about it a lot, because I've also been thinking about being still as well. I feel like, well, I mean, again, like, your life is always moving. a lot of the time, so it's hard to just sit sometimes and think, or not even think, just exist for a little while. Um, there's actually another movie I've been thinking about a lot as well, Sound of Metal with Riz Ahmed. But love that movie as well. But it also teaches that lesson about stillness by the end of it, and it's a beautiful moment. Two parts specifically that stick out to me in conveying that message. Because I mean, throughout Riz Ahmed's character, Ruben, he's a drummer who loses his hearing, and I mean, you think of something as like an instrument like the drums, fast paced. You're always moving, and with his life, he's like an up and coming like artist. Has a bit of fame, but still in that like rising era. So like his life is moving, and this obstacle comes in his way that forces him to stop and slow down, but he's just not in that mindset. And you can see it a lot in the movie. He's like always at this sort of breaking point with his condition. And then he joins the community, and he does become a part of it. And I feel like there's moments where you can kind of see that he appreciates the people around him, but he feels like he needs to move on with his life and needs to keep doing what he was doing before. And that's sort of what the leader of this group is like trying to teach him to be still and accept his condition, and not see it as weakness or anything like that necessarily. Just see it as it is. It's not something to fix necessarily. It becomes your culture, something you live with. But yeah, so like one of the standout scenes is later on in the film, Ruben, he gets an operation to get his hearing back, and he's having this conversation with the guy, and the guy just asks him straight up. He's like, well, that entire time I had you sitting there, you know, just sitting and writing, like were you ever still? And of course, Ruben wasn't. He was just so mad. Again, ties back to the anger. He was just that angry person. He wasn't, willing to stand by and let his life pass him up. And he felt like he needed to be a bit more proactive about it, which, it can be a good thing, but in very harsh scenarios like that, you got to take a moment and reflect a bit more. Yeah, so the head guy, he asks him, like, were you ever sitting still? And of course Ruben says no. And he felt like he needed to get this operation. He felt like he needs to get his life moving again. But obviously that kind of goes against the core tenets of the community, trying to fix their conditions, not what they're about. So Ruben gets kicked out, and it's very bitter. I was gonna say bittersweet, but just straight bitter, honestly. Because even the main guy, like, he's built this relationship with Ruben, this friendship, and Ruben, in his eyes, just kind of throws it away, throws it at him. So it's quite sad, really. And Ruben sort of goes away a bit defeated. And then he finally reconnects with his girlfriend later on, and they're talking again. And the entire time he's just like bombarded, because the operation, the way it works is it only sort of like reflects the way the hearing used to work. It's not not one to one what it used to be. But yeah, the moment at the very end, where he finally just sits down, and he's just so clouded by all these noises, all these you know perverted noises, I guess, of things that you and me sort of take for granted. In the movie, they kind of showcase it, just kids playing, people walking. Imagine just the sounds of those things, and a ringing bell, whatever. And he's hearing those things in this new form, distorted and whatnot. And I think it finally gets to him, and he finally realizes that he just needs to sit for a while. So he takes off his hearing aids, and just sits, and just these great shots, showcasing again the different sounds he was hearing, but now with complete silence. And he's finally able to just sit there and close his eyes, accepting the reality, accepting his life as it is. But great moment. But I guess those are the two main things I've been thinking about a lot. Just love, life, and appreciating both those things. I think it was a bit weird. I felt initially like I didn't really know how I wanted to, go about talking about all this because I feel like some of it's a bit disjointed, but oddly enough, it all sort of fits thematically. Mhm. But I feel like that's about it. That's about all I really wanted to talk about. Mainly, just reliving time. Great movie, uh, and well, I guess a small just talking about Sound of Metal as well, which I love as well. So there's that. But of course, the main thing I wanted to get across was this New York Times modern love essay, which is great. Something I've been thinking about. But yeah, I'll be sure to link that video with Andrew Garfield in the description, and I'll link this New York Times article in the description. And then even the Savannah Brown video, I feel like has some minor relevancy, so I'll probably put that in the description as well. Just thinking about relationships, love and life, sort of thing. But yeah, that's about it for this one. Just wanted to kind of put something out there a little bit different. Uh, Obviously, gonna end up being like a double recording kind of day. I'll probably just do it right now, right after this, just to get it out the way for the movie of yesterday. But yeah, I guess thanks for listening. Take care.